When a runaway woman stumbles onto a struggling farm, the last thing either expects is love. But as her past closes in, can a broken man protect the woman who brought his land and heart back to life? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun cast long shadows across Silver Oak Farm as Luke Jennings inspected the damage from last night's storm. At 30 years old, he had the weathered hands of someone who'd spent his life working the land, but his eyes still held a gentleness that contradicted his rugged appearance. The wind had torn off several roof shingles from the greenhouse, and he knew he'd need to fix them before the day grew too hot. Another day, another dollar, he muttered to himself, climbing down from the ladder and wiping sweat from his brow. Silver Oak Farm had been in the Jennings family for 3 generations. When Luke's parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, he had taken over the property with determination to keep their legacy alive. The farm was known throughout the county for its organic produce and the beautiful silver oak trees that lined the entrance path, giving the place its name. Luke walked back to the main house, a 2-story farmhouse with a wide porch that wrapped around 3 sides. Beside it stood a smaller guest house that had once been used for seasonal workers but now sat mostly empty. Business had been tough lately, and Luke couldn't afford to hire the help he needed. Inside, he poured himself a cup of coffee and checked his to-do list for the day. The farm stand needed restocking, the north field needed irrigation work, and he still hadn't figured out how to fix the tractor that had broken down last week. Too much work and too little time. The sound of tires on gravel caught his attention. Luke wasn't expecting visitors, especially not this early. He stepped onto the porch, coffee mug in hand, and watched as an old blue sedan made its way up the long driveway. The car stopped, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the driver's door opened, and a young woman stepped out. She stood there, for a moment, looking around nervously before her eyes settled on Luke. Even from a distance, he could see the exhaustion on her face. She walked toward him slowly, clutching a small bag to her chest. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her clothes looked worn but clean. As she got closer, Luke noticed how she kept her eyes down, avoiding his gaze. "Good morning," Luke said, trying to sound friendly. "Can I help you with something?" The woman stopped at the foot of the porch steps. "I saw your sign on the highway," she said quietly. "It said you might need workers." Luke frowned slightly. That sign had been up for months, but he'd taken it down last week when he realized he couldn't afford to pay anyone. Someone must have put it back up. "I'm sorry," he began, "but I don't want trouble," she interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do anything. I just need a chance." Something in her tone made Luke pause. He looked at her more carefully now, the way her shoulders hunched forward as if expecting a blow, the nervous way her fingers clutched her bag, the exhaustion that seemed to seep from her very being. This wasn't just someone looking for work. This was someone running from something. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Valeria," she replied. "Valeria Cruz." Luke set his coffee mug on the porch railing and took a step toward her. "Do you have experience working on a farm, Valeria?" She shook her head. "Not really, but I'm a fast learner. I can clean, cook, organize, whatever you need." Luke should have turned her away. The farm was barely staying afloat as it was, but something about Valeria's desperate plea touched something inside him. "I can't offer much," he said. "Just room and board, and maybe a small wage when things pick up." Hope flickered across her face, quickly replaced by suspicion. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Luke replied. "Just honest work for honest pay. And here, you'll be treated like a queen." The words came out before he could think about them, but once said, he knew he meant them. There was something about this woman that stirred his protective instincts. Valeria's eyes widened slightly, and Luke noticed how she flinched at his words, as if kindness was something she had learned to be wary of. "I don't need special treatment," she said stiffly. "Just a fair chance." Luke nodded, understanding. "That's all I'm offering, a fair chance." He gestured toward the guest house. "There's a room ready in there. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and private. Why don't you get settled in, and then we can talk more about the work." Valeria hesitated, looking from Luke to the guest house and back again. Trust didn't come easily to her, that much was clear. "The door has a lock," Luke added, guessing her concern, "and I never go in there without knocking first." This seemed to ease her mind slightly. She nodded and picked up her bag from where she'd set it on the ground. "Thank you," she said, so quietly Luke almost didn't hear it. As Valeria walked toward the guest house, Luke watched her go with a mixture of curiosity and concern. Who was this woman, and what had happened to make her so guarded? He had a feeling there was much more to Valeria Cruz than met the eye. Inside the guest house, Valeria closed the door behind her and immediately checked the lock. It worked. She let out a breath. She hadn't realized she'd been holding and looked around the room. It was simple but comfortable, a double bed with a patchwork quilt, a small dresser, a desk with a chair, and a window that overlooked the garden. The bathroom was small but clean, with fresh towels folded on a shelf. Better than anywhere she'd stayed in months. Valeria sat on the edge of the bed, still not quite believing her luck. When she'd seen the sign for Silver Oak Farm, She'd been running on fumes, both literally in her car and figuratively in her life. After David, her ex-boyfriend, had kicked her out of their apartment and spread rumors about her at work, leading to her firing, Valeria had felt like the whole world was against her. She'd been driving for days, sleeping in her car at rest stops, taking odd jobs for cash when she could find them. The sign for Silver Oak Farm had seemed like a last-ditch effort before she had to admit defeat and call her sister something she desperately wanted to avoid. And now here she was, with a roof over her head and the promise of work. The farmer looks decent enough, but Valeria had learned the hard way that appearances could be deceiving. Men like David started out charming too, until they showed their true colors. Just get through one day at a time, she whispered to herself, a mantra she'd repeated countless times over the past few months. She unpacked her meager belongings, a few changes of clothes, a toothbrush, a worn paperback novel, and a small framed photo of her parents, both long gone now. Then she splashed water on her face, smoothed her hair, and prepared to face whatever challenges this farm might bring. Outside, Luke was already at work fixing the greenhouse roof. He worked methodically, replacing damaged panels and securing loose ones. The physical labor helped clear his mind, which kept drifting back to his new employee. There was something about Valeria Cruz that tugged at him, the wariness in her eyes, the way she held herself as if expecting the worst. Luke recognized the signs of someone who'd been hurt. He'd seen that same look in his own eyes after his parents died, when grief had nearly consumed him. By midday, the sun was beating down mercilessly. Luke climbed down from the greenhouse roof, wiping sweat from his face with the hem of his t-shirt. He needed water and a break from the heat. As he approached the main house, he was surprised to see Valeria sitting on the porch steps. She stood quickly when she saw him coming. "I wasn't sure where to find you," she said. "I wanted to start working." Luke gestured toward the pitcher of water on the porch table. "Have some water first. It's too hot to rush into anything." Valeria accepted a glass gratefully, and Luke noticed how her hands trembled slightly. "When's the last time you ate something?" he asked. She shrugged, avoiding his gaze. "Yesterday, I think." Without another word, Luke headed into the house and returned moments later with a plate holding a sandwich and some apple slices. "Eat," he said, placing it beside her. "We can talk about work after." Valeria looked at the food suspiciously, then back at Luke. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity," Luke replied evenly. "It's lunch. Can't have you passing out on your first day. Bad for business." A ghost of a smile touched Valeria's lips, so brief Luke almost missed it. She picked up the sandwich and took a small bite, then a larger one as her hunger took over. Luke sat on the steps, a respectful distance away, sipping his water and giving her space to eat. "So," he said after a while, "what brings you to Silver Oak Farm? We're pretty far off the beaten path." Valeria stiffened. "Just looking for work," she said, her tone making it clear she didn't want to elaborate. Luke nodded, accepting her privacy. "Fair enough, everyone's got their story. You don't have to share yours if you don't want to." They sat in silence for a few minutes, the only sounds, the distant call of birds and the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. "I could help with the greenhouse," Valeria finally said. One evening, after they'd spent the day harvesting tomatoes, Camila watched as Nathan carefully counted out her wages. "I put aside a little extra," he said, sliding the money across the kitchen table. "Thought you might want to get some things in town." Camila stared at the money, then at him. "Why are you so good to me?" Nathan seemed taken aback by the question. "It's not about being good to you, Camila. It's about being decent, but you don't even know me," she pressed. "I could be anyone. I could steal from you. I could be lying about everything." "Are you?" he asked simply. "No, but then there's nothing to worry about, is there?" Camila stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "You don't understand. If I rely on you, what happens when you change your mind? When you decide I'm too much trouble? When you get tired of having me around?" The fear in her voice was raw and real. Nathan stayed seated, his expression calm despite her outburst. "I won't make you stay, Camila, but I'll be the place you can come back to." "You can't promise that," she whispered. "People leave. People change." "Some do," he acknowledged. "I don't." Camila wanted desperately to believe him, but a lifetime of disappointment had taught her caution. "How can you be so sure?" Nathan was quiet for a moment. "I was engaged once," he finally said. 4 years ago. Her name was Rebecca. She said she loved the farm, loved the idea of building a life here. His eyes took on a faraway look, but what she really wanted was for me to change, to be more ambitious, she said. To want more than just this. He gestured around them. "What happened?" Camila asked softly. "She left." The words were simple but carried the weight of old pain. "Said I was too content with simple things, that my gentleness was what weakness," he finished. She couldn't understand that this life, quiet, the work, caring for living things, this is what I want. What makes me happy. Camila sat back down slowly. "I'm sorry," Nathan shrugged. "It taught me something important. I am who I am. I won't change that for anyone, and I won't ask anyone else to change for me either." He looked at her directly. "I'm not offering you a perfect life, Camila, just an honest one." That night, Camila lay awake for hours, turning their conversation over in her mind. She'd spent so long running, so long afraid, that the idea of staying in one place, of belonging somewhere, was almost more frightening than leaving. But for the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. Summer turned to early fall. The leaves began to change, painting the countryside in rich golds and reds. Camila had been at Bridle Creek for nearly 2 months. She'd learned every corner of the farm, every routine. She'd come to anticipate Nathan's quiet ways, how he hummed while he worked, how he always fed the animals before feeding himself, how he could tell a storm was coming by the way the air smelled. One crisp morning, as they loaded the truck for the farmer's market, the phone rang. Nathan went inside to answer it, returning a few minutes later with a strange expression. "Everything okay?" Camila asked, noticing the change. "That was my sister," he said. "She mentioned something odd. Said she ran into someone in town asking about you." Camila froze, a crate of eggs half lifted, asking what if you were staying here. Middle-aged woman, well-dressed, said she was your aunt. The color drained from Camila's face. She set the eggs down carefully, her hand suddenly unsteady. "Camila," Nathan's voice was concerned. "What is it?" "My Aunt Eleonora," she said, her voice tight. "She's the one who kicked me out when I was 17. Said she couldn't afford another mouth to feed after my mother died." Her laugh was bitter. She lived in a 5-bedroom house, drove a Mercedes. Nathan's expression darkened. "What does she want now?" "I don't know," Camila said, but the old fear was creeping back. Nothing good, that's for sure. They drove to the market in silence, but Camila could feel the tension building inside her. By the time they'd set up their stand, her shoulders were tight with anxiety. The market was busy, as it always was on Saturdays. Regular customers stopped by, chatting with Nathan and increasingly with Camila too. She'd become part of the routine, part of the farm's face to the community. It was nearly noon when Camila spotted her. Eleonora Torres, immaculately dressed. As always, her hair dyed a perfect shade of brown, her jewelry catching the sunlight. She was scanning the market, searching. Camila ducked behind the stand just as her aunt's gaze swept over them. "She's here," she whispered to Nathan, the woman in the beige coat by the flower stand. Nathan glanced over casually. "Stay here, I'll handle this." Before Camila could protest, he walked around the stand and approached Eleonora. She couldn't hear what they said, but she saw her aunt's posture stiffen, saw her hand gestures become more animated. Nathan remained calm, his stance relaxed but firm. After what seemed like an eternity, her aunt walked away, and Nathan returned. "What did she say?" Camila asked immediately. Nathan's expression was grim. "She claims your grandfather is ill, wants to make amends before it's too late. Says he's changed his will if you something substantial." Camila's laugh was sharp and disbelieving. "Grandfather Henry, he disowned my mother when she got pregnant with me, never even met me." She shook her head. "It's a trick, it has to be." "That's what I figured," Nathan said. "I told her if she wanted to contact you, she could leave a letter at the post office, said you'd pick it up if you wanted to." Camila felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you. No need to thank me. It's your life, your choice." He paused. "But Camila, if there's any chance it's true, It's not," she said firmly. "The only thing my family ever gave me was a lesson in how cruel people can be to their own blood." They finished the market day in subdued spirits. As they drove home, the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant colors, but Camila barely noticed. "What if she comes to the farm?" she asked suddenly. Nathan's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Then I'll tell her to leave. This is your home now, Camila. No one can force you to do anything you don't want to do. Your home." The words echoed in her mind. When had Bridle Creek Farm become home? When had this quiet man beside her become someone she couldn't imagine her life without? The realization should have frightened her. Instead, it filled her with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. That night, she found Nathan sitting on the porch steps looking up at the stars. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. He smiled and moved over to make room. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the night sounds of the farm a gentle backdrop. "I got a letter today, too," Nathan said eventually, "from my sister in Colorado." Camila turned to look at him. "She wants me to come visit. Says she could use some help fixing up her place. Might take a couple of weeks." Camila felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "When would you go?" "I told her I couldn't." Nathan's eyes were still on the stars. "Not right now, anyway. Because of the farm. Because of you," he said simply. "I wouldn't leave you alone here, especially not with your aunt sniffing around." The knot in Camila's stomach transformed into something warm and unexpected. "I don't want you to put your life on hold because of me." "I'm not," he assured her. "Marie understands. She knows you're important to me. Important to me." 3 simple words that changed everything. Camila found herself reaching for his hand in the darkness. His fingers closed around hers, warm and steady. "I'm afraid of needing anyone," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Survival has taught me that need turns into weakness." Nathan squeezed her hand gently. "Maybe that's true when you need the wrong people, but the right ones, they make you stronger." As they sat there under the vast canopy of stars, something shifted between them. Not just friendship, not just kindness, but the first delicate tendrils of something deeper. and for the first time in her life, Camila didn't want to run from it. The next morning, Camila woke to the sound of rain drumming against the roof. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the soothing rhythm and thinking about her conversation with Nathan the night before. Important to me. The words had played in her mind as she'd fallen asleep. She pulled on a sweater and headed downstairs. The kitchen was empty, but a note sat on the table in Nathan's neat handwriting. Gone to check the fence line, back by noon, coffee's made. And Camila smiled, pouring herself a cup. In the 2 months she'd been at Bridal Creek, this small considerate coffee waiting for her had become a cherished part of her mornings. The sound of tires on gravel caught her attention. She went to the window, expecting to see Nathan's truck returning early. Instead, an unfamiliar sedan was pulling up to the house. Her heart dropped when she recognized the driver, Aunt Eleonora. Camila's first instinct was to hide, to pretend no one was home, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the strength she'd gained during her time at Bridal Creek, or maybe it was knowing that Nathan believed in her. Whatever the reason, she found herself walking to the front door. She stepped onto the porch just as Eleonora emerged from the car, shielding herself from the rain with an expensive-looking umbrella. "Camila," her aunt said, as if they'd seen each other only yesterday instead of 8 years ago. "You look better than I expected." Camila crossed her arms. "What are you doing here, Aunt Eleonora? Is that any way to greet family?" Eleonora smiled and reached her eyes. "May I come in? It's rather wet out here." Camila hesitated, then stepped aside. This was a conversation best had without an audience of rain clouds. Inside, Eleonora looked around with poorly disguised disdain, taking in the simple, comfortable furnishings of Nathan's home. "So this is where you've ended up," she remarked. "Quite ... rustic. What do you want?" Camila asked again, not bothering to offer her aunt a seat. Eleonora sighed dramatically. "I told that man yesterday. Your grandfather is ill." "The grandfather who never wanted to meet me," Camila interrupted. "The one who threw my mother out and called her shameful names." "People change," Eleonora insisted. "Henry has had a change of heart. He's been trying to find you for months." "Why now?" "He's dying, Camila. Cancer. The doctors give him 6 months, maybe less." Eleonora reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "He's changed his will, left you the house and a substantial trust fund." Camila stared at the envelope but didn't take it. "I don't believe you. It's all in here. Legal documents, a letter from Henry himself." Eleonora placed the envelope on the coffee table. "He wants to make amends before it's too late." "And what do you get out of this?" Camila asked, suspicion clear in her voice. A flash of something, anger, frustration, crossed Eleonora's perfectly made-up face. "Is it so hard to believe that we want to do right by you after all this time?" "Yes," Camila said simply. "It is." Eleonora's facade cracked slightly. "Fine. You were always too smart for your own good. Yes, there's something in it for me. Henry changed all our inheritance arrangements when he found out about his diagnosis. No one gets anything unless you accept your portion. It's his way of forcing us to bring you back into the family." Now, that sounded like the manipulative grandfather Camila had heard about from her mother. "So you need me to get your money?" "We need each other," Eleonora corrected smoothly. "You get a house, financial security. We get our inheritance. Everyone wins." Camila laughed bitterly. "Except I have to leave here and play happy family with people who threw me away like garbage." "It would only be for a little while," Eleonora said, her voice softening into something that might have been meant to sound comforting. "Just until the will clears probate. A few months at most. Then you can do whatever you want with your life. You'll be a wealthy woman, Camila." The door opened behind them, and Nathan walked in, soaked from the rain. He stopped when he saw Eleonora, his eyes immediately going to Camila. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice deliberately casual. But Camila could see the concern in his eyes. "My aunt was just leaving," Camila said firmly. Eleonora smiled tightly. "Think about what I said, Camila. It's a chance you won't get again." She nodded curtly at Nathan and headed for the door. "I'll be at the Pinewood Inn in town until tomorrow evening. Call me when you've made your decision." After she left, Nathan hung up his wet jacket and turned to Camila. What did she want? Camila explained about her grandfather's illness, the changed will, the conditions. "Do you believe her?" Nathan asked when she finished. "About grandfather Henry being sick. Maybe about him wanting to make amends." "Not for a second." Camila picked up the envelope, turning it over in her hands. "But the money part could be true. It would explain why she's suddenly so interested in finding me." Nathan watched her carefully. "Are you considering it?" Camila sank onto the couch. "I don't know. It's a lot to process." Nathan sat beside her, not too close, giving her space. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you." She looked at him, searching his face. "Even if I leave?" Even then, his voice was steady, but she didn't miss the flash of pain in his eyes at the thought. Camila stared at the envelope in her hands, then slowly tore it open. Inside were several legal-looking documents and a handwritten letter. She read it in silence, her expression growing more troubled with each line. "It's exactly like she said," she finally admitted. "He's dying, wants to correct past mistakes. The house, a trust fund, ... It's all here." She looked up at Nathan. "It's a fortune, more money than I'd make in a lifetime." Money isn't everything, Nathan said quietly. It is when you've never had any, Camila replied more sharply than she intended. She softened her tone. I'm sorry, it's just ... Do you know what it's like to always be one missed paycheck away from homelessness? To count pennies for a meal? To walk for miles because you can't afford bus fare? No, he admitted, I don't. This could change everything for me. Security, a future. Nathan nodded slowly. You already have a place here, Camila, for as long as you want it. But I understand this is something you need to consider. The rain continued to fall outside, filling the silence between them. That evening, Camila sat alone on the porch swing, watching the sun break through the clouds as the rain finally stopped. The wet fields gleamed in the golden light, beautiful in their simplicity. The screen door creaked, and Nathan joined her, offering a mug of hot chocolate, a peace offering of sorts. Thank you, she said, taking it gratefully. The warmth seeped into her hands. Have you decided? He asked after a while. Not yet, Camila sighed. Part of me wants to tell Eleonora to get lost. After what they did to me, to my mother, why should I help them get their inheritance? And the other part is tired of struggling. She took a sip of the hot chocolate. You know, when I showed up here, I had nothing, not even hope. You gave me that, but this, she gestured with the mug. This isn't my home, Nathan. It's yours. You've been incredibly kind, but I can't stay here forever. Why not? The question was so simple, so direct, that it caught her off guard. Because it wouldn't be right, she said after a moment. I need to make my own way. You work hard here, Camila. You've earned your place. She shook her head. It's not the same. I'll always be the girl you rescued. The charity case, don't you see? Nathan set his mug down with a definitive click. Is that really what you think? That you're some kind of charity project to me? The hurt in his voice was unmistakable. I didn't mean it like that. Camila backtracked. It's just ... complicated. It doesn't have to be. Nathan turned to face her fully. Camila, when you came here, yes, you needed help, but what you've become to me since then, it's far more than that. Her heart quickened. What do you mean? Nathan seemed to struggle with his words, unusual for someone normally so straightforward. I'm not good at this, he finally said, at saying how I feel. But these past 2 months, having you here, it's been the happiest I've been in years. Camila stared at him, afraid to believe what she was hearing. The farm was just a place before, he continued. A good place, but ... empty, somehow. Now, it's different, better because of you. Nathan ... I'm not trying to influence your decision, he said quickly. That's not fair to you. This opportunity with your grandfather, if it's legitimate, could give you options you've never had before. I understand that. I just want you to know that if you decide to stay, it wouldn't be charity or pity. It would be because ... double quotes. He paused, taking a deep breath. Because I care about you. More than I should, probably. The confession hung in the air between them, changing everything. I care about you too, Camila whispered, surprised by how easy it was to admit. That's what makes this so hard. Nathan nodded, understanding in his eyes. You don't have to decide tonight. Take your time. Think about what you really want. But as he stood to go inside, leaving her to her thoughts, Camila wondered if she already knew the answer. The next morning, Camila rose early. She hadn't slept much, her mind too full of conflicting thoughts. By dawn, she'd made her decision. Nathan was already in the kitchen making breakfast. He looked up when she entered, a question in his eyes that he didn't ask out loud. I'm going to see her, Camila said without preamble. I need to know if this is real. Nathan nodded. I'll drive. You know, she said firmly. This is something I need to do myself. Reluctantly, he agreed to lend her his truck. As she was about to leave, he pressed the keys into her hand, his fingers lingering against hers. Whatever you decide, he said softly, come back here first, please. She nodded, unable to trust her voice, and headed for town. The Pinewood Inn was a small but respectable establishment on Main Street. Eleonora answered her knock immediately, as if she'd been waiting. I thought you might come, she said, gesturing Camila inside. The room was meticulously tidy, Eleonora's expensive suitcase standing ready by the door. I have questions, Camila said, getting straight to the point. Of course you do. Eleonora indicated a chair. Sit down. Let's talk like adults. For the next hour, Camila grilled her aunt about everything: the will, her grandfather's condition, what would be expected of her. Eleonora answered with unexpected candor, even showing her medical reports and additional legal documents. So I'd have to live in grandfather's house until he passes away and the will goes through probate, Camila summarized. Pretend to be the loving granddaughter. Is that so much to ask? Eleonora countered. A few months of your life in exchange for security forever. And what about Nathan? The question slipped out before Camila could stop it. Eleonora's eyebrow arched. The farmer. What about him? Surely you didn't think that was going to last. A man like that, stuck in his ways, content with so little. You deserve more, Camila. The words echoed uncomfortably close to what Nathan had said about his ex-fiancée. You don't know him, Camila said defensively. I know his type, Ellie dismissed. Good men perhaps, but simple, limited. You've been through so much, Camila. Don't you want more than feeding chickens and selling vegetables for the rest of your life? The question struck a nerve, not because Camila was ashamed of the work she'd come to love it, but because it forced her to think about what she truly wanted for her future. I need time to think, she said, standing up. Eleonora's smile was triumphant, as if she'd already won. My flight leaves at 7 tonight. I'll expect your answer by 5. Back at Bridle Creek, Camila found Nathan in the barn, brushing one of the horses. He looked up when she entered, his face carefully neutral. How did it go? He asked. It seems legitimate, she admitted. Everything checks out. Grandfather Henry really is dying, really did change his will. She leaned against a stall door. I have until 5 o'clock to decide. Nathan continued, brushing the horse, his movements steady and methodical. And what are you thinking? I'm thinking it's a lot of money, she said honestly. A house, security, but it comes with strings. Living with a man who rejected my mother, playing a role. She watched Nathan's hands as they moved over the horse's coat. Strong hands, gentle hands, hands that had caught her when she fell. And it means leaving here. Nathan set the brush down and turned to face her. Camila, I need to say something, and I want you to really hear me. Whatever you decide, it has to be for you. Not for me, not for your aunt or your grandfather. For you, I know that, she said, frustrated. But how do I know what's right? What does your heart tell you? Camila laughed without humor. My heart hasn't exactly been a reliable guide in the past. Maybe it just needed the right reason to speak up. Their eyes met across the barn, and something passed between them, unspoken but powerful. I'm afraid, she admitted, in a whisper. Of what? Of making the wrong choice. Of losing everything again. Of ... She hesitated. Of letting myself believe in something good, only to have it taken away. Nathan moved closer, stopping just in front of her. Some risks are worth taking, Camila, and then, gently, he reached up to brush a strand of hair from her face. The touch was feather-light, but it sent a current through her entire body. I should go pack, she said abruptly, stepping back, just in case. Nathan's hand fell to his side. Of course, in her room. Camila pulled out the small duffel bag she'd arrived with, her only possession besides the clothes on her back, it seemed. Like a lifetime ago, she began folding the clothes Nathan's sister had left behind, clothes that had become hers over the past months. Each item held a memory. The blue shirt she'd worn to her first farmer's market. The jeans she'd been wearing when she helped deliver a calf. The sweater Nathan had draped around her shoulders one chilly evening on the porch. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Nathan entered, holding something in his hands, a simple wooden box. I wanted to give you this, he said, before you make your decision. Camila took the box curiously. It was beautifully crafted, the wood smooth and polished. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft cloth, was a delicate silver chain with a small pendant, a tiny horseshoe. Nathan ... She breathed, lifting it carefully. It was my mother's, he explained. She always said it brought her luck, I thought. Well, whatever you decide, maybe it could bring you some too. Tears pricked at Camila's eyes. I can't take this. It's too precious. That's exactly why I want you to have it. His voice was gentle but firm. Because you're precious to me, Camila. But words hung in the air, a declaration that couldn't be misunderstood. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything. He took the necklace from her fingers and moved behind her. May I? She nodded, lifting her hair as he fastened the chain around her neck. The pendant rested just below her collarbone, cool against her skin. When he stepped back around to face her, his expression was open, vulnerable. Whatever you decide, I want you to know these past months have been a gift. You've been a gift, Camila, to this farm, to me. The clock on the nightstand showed for 30 minutes until she needed to call Eleonora. I should finish packing, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Nathan nodded and headed for the door. He paused with his hand on the knob. Camila Yetsky. Just remember what I told you that first day. You'll be loved here, always. After he left, Camila sat on the bed, the necklace warm against her skin, her decision weighing heavy on her heart. At precisely 5 o'clock, Camila dialed the number Eleonora had given her. Her aunt answered on the first ring. I've been waiting for your call, Eleonora said, confidence in her voice. I assume you've made the sensible choice. Camila took a deep breath. I have made my choice. Yes, excellent. I'll pick you up in 30 minutes. We can be at the airport by no, Camila interrupted. You misunderstand. I'm not coming with you, Aunt Eleonora. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. What? I'm not coming. I don't want grandfather's money or his house. Not if it means living a lie. You foolish girl, Eleonora hissed, her pleasant facade dropping entirely. Do you have any idea what you're throwing away? Millions, Camila. A future security. I have security, Camila said, surprising herself with how confident she sounded. I have work that matters, people who care about me. I have a home with that farmer. Eleonora's voice was scathing. You think that will last? That he won't tire of you eventually, like everyone else has. The words were meant to hurt, to play on Camila's deepest fears. A few months ago, they might have worked, but not anymore. Goodbye, Aunt Eleonora, Camilla said firmly. Give grandfather my best wishes. I hope he finds peace. She hung up before her aunt could respond, her hand shaking slightly but her heart surprisingly calm downstairs. Nathan was in the kitchen, pretending to be busy with dinner preparations. He looked up when she entered, a question in his eyes. I'm staying, she said simply. The relief that washed over his face was like sunrise breaking through clouds. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Camilla said, touching the horseshoe pendant at her throat. This is where I belong, with a farm. With you. Nathan crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. She went willingly, melting into his embrace. It felt like coming home, not to a place, but to a person. I was so afraid you'd go, he murmured against her hair. For a while, so was I. She drew back just enough to look up at him. But then, I realized something important. What's that? That sometimes the richest life isn't the one with the most money, it's the one with the most love. Nathan's smile was like sunshine. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, he lowered his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as Camilla responded, wrapping her arms around his neck. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathless. So what now? She asked, her head spinning pleasantly. Nathan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch reverent. Now we build a life, together day by day. I like the sound of that, Camilla said, smiling up at him. Outside, the sun was setting over Bridal Creek Farm, painting the sky in brilliant hues of gold and pink. Inside, 2 people who had found each other against all odds held tight to the most precious thing either had ever known, a love born of kindness, strengthened by understanding, and brave enough to believe in second chances. 3 months had passed since Camilla chose to stay at Bridal Creek Farm. The crisp days of fall had given way to winter's first frost, painting the farm in a delicate white each morning. Inside the farmhouse, warmth and contentment had taken root. Camilla hummed as she kneaded bread dough in the kitchen, a skill Nathan had taught her with patience and laughter. The silver horseshoe pendant hung around her neck, catching the morning light. That smells amazing, Nathan said, coming in from feeding the animals. He stamped the cold from his boots and hung his coat by the door. Camilla smiled as he crossed the kitchen and wrapped his arms around her from behind, planting a kiss on her neck. It's your mother's recipe. I'm still trying to get it right. Looks perfect to me, he murmured against her hair. Just like everything else around here lately. She turned in his arms, leaving flowery handprints on his flannel shirt. Flatterer, just honest. He kissed her softly. How did I get so lucky? Camilla laughed. I'm the lucky one, remember? I showed up here half dead, and you saved me. Nathan's expression grew serious. We saved each other, Camilla. The moment was interrupted by the ringing of the telephone. Nathan reluctantly released her to answer it. Bridal Creek Farm, he said. Then his face changed, a slight frown appearing. Yes, she's here. May I ask who's calling? He paused, listening. I see, just a moment. He covered the receiver with his hand. It's a lawyer from Boston. Martin Chambers says it's about your grandfather. Camilla wiped her hands on a towel, her good mood evaporating. What does he want? Didn't say just that it's important. She hesitated, then took the phone from Nathan. This is Camila Torres. The voice on the other end was formal, professional. Miss Torres, I'm Martin Chambers, your grandfather's attorney. I'm afraid I have some news. Henry Torres passed away last night. Camilla sat down heavily at the kitchen table. Despite never having met her grandfather, the news still affected her. I see. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you. There's another matter we need to discuss. Your presence is requested at the reading of the will, this Friday in Boston. The will. Camilla's confusion was evident, but I told my aunt I didn't want any part of it. Nevertheless, your grandfather specifically required your presence for the will to be executed. All beneficiaries must attend, and if I don't come, there was a pause on the other end. Then, according to the terms of the will, all assets will be donated to charity. No one will receive anything. Camilla closed her eyes, already imagining Eleonora's reaction to that possibility. When do I need to be there? Friday at 2 p.m. at our offices in Boston. I'll email you the details. After getting the information and hanging up, Camilla explained the situation to Nathan. You don't have to go if you don't want to, he said, sitting across from her at the table. It's your choice. If I don't, the whole family gets nothing. Eleonora would never forgive me. She gave a humorless laugh. Not that she's likely to forgive me anyway, after I turned down her offer. Does that matter to you? Nathan asked gently. What Eleonora thinks? Camilla considered the question. Not really, but I am curious. Why would Grandfather Henry insist on my presence even after I refused his offer? It doesn't make sense. Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. There's only one way to find out. Will you come with me? She asked, vulnerability in her voice. To Boston. Try and stop me, he said with a reassuring smile. We're in this together now, remember? Camilla squeezed his hand gratefully. Thank you. The law offices of Chambers, Wright, and Associates occupied the top floor of a sleek building in downtown Boston. Camilla felt out of place in her simple dress and coat, especially next to Eleonora and the other relatives who arrived in designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Eleonora's gaze was icy when she spotted Camila and Nathan in the waiting area. "So, you decided to show up after all," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "How convenient." "I'm just here because I was asked to be," Camila replied evenly. "Nothing more." "And you brought your friend?" Eleonora looked Nathan up and down, taking in his clean but clearly non-designer suit. "Nathan Reed," he said, extending his hand with impeccable manners. "Pleased to meet you formally, Mrs. Torres." Eleonora ignored his hand. "Let's just get this over with." They were shown into a large conference room where several other people were already seated, cousins Camila had never met, an uncle she vaguely remembered, and a few faces completely unknown to her. All eyes turned to stare as she entered. Martin Chambers, a distinguished man in his 60s, called the meeting to order. "Thank you all for coming. As you know, we're here for the reading of Henry Torres's last will and testament." He opened a folder and began to read the legal preamble. Camila half listened, her mind drifting to the farm and how much she'd rather be there than in this room, full of strangers who shared her blood but nothing else. Her attention snapped back when she heard her name. "To my granddaughter Camila Torres, whom I regrettably never had the privilege to know." Chambers read, "I leave the following. First, my sincere apology. The way I treated your mother, my daughter Alina, was the greatest mistake of my life. My pride and stubborn nature cost me the chance to know both her and you. For this, I am profoundly sorry." A murmur ran through the room. Eleonora shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Second," Chambers continued, "I leave my summer house in Newport, Rhode Island, along with a trust fund of $2 million to be managed by Chambers, Wright, and Associates until Camila reaches the age of 30, at which point full control will transfer to her." Gasps and whispered protests filled the room. Eleonora's face had gone pale. "There is, however, one condition." Chambers raised his voice slightly to be heard over the murmuring. "Camila must spend 1 week at the Newport house before taking possession. During this time, she may bring one person of her choosing for company, but no other family members are permitted on the property." Chambers looked up at Camila. "The week must be completed within 30 days of this reading." He then went on to detailed bequests to the other family members, significantly smaller amounts and properties than what Camila had been given. Eleonora received a modest townhouse in Cambridge, and a sum that, while substantial, was clearly much less than she had expected. By the time the reading was over, the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "This is outrageous." Eleonora finally exploded, rising to her feet. "Henry promised me." She stopped abruptly, seeming to realize what she was about to reveal. "Promised you what, Aunt Eleonora?" Camila asked quietly. Eleonora's mouth thinned to a hard line. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." Chambers cleared his throat. "If there are no questions about the terms, I have some paperwork for each of you to sign, acknowledging that you understand the conditions of your inheritance." As the others crowded around for their documents, Camila remained seated, trying to process what had just happened. Nathan's hand found hers under the table, a silent reassurance. "Are you okay?" he whispered. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "It doesn't feel real." When most of the relatives had departed, Chambers approached Camila with a separate envelope. "Ms. Torres, there's one more thing. Your grandfather left this letter for you. He asked that you read it privately." Camila took the envelope, feeling its weight in her hands. "Thank you." Outside the building, Eleonora was waiting by the curb, her face a storm of emotions. "You think you've won, don't you?" she said as Camila and Nathan emerged, the favored granddaughter swooping in at the last minute to claim the biggest prize. "I didn't ask for any of this," Camila replied. "I'm as surprised as you are." "Don't play innocent with me," Eleonora snapped. "Somehow you got to him, made him change his will. What did you tell him about me?" "Nothing. I never even met him." "Liar." Eleonora stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "You ruined everything, just like your mother did." "Henry was going to leave it all to me," he promised. Nathan moved protectively closer to Camila. "I think it's time for us to go, Mrs. Torres." Eleonora's gaze shifted to him, contempt clear in her eyes. "Enjoy it while it lasts, farmer boy. Camila comes from money now. How long do you think she'll stay content with your little patch of dirt once she gets a taste of what real wealth feels like?" Camila's anger fled. "That's enough. Aunt Eleonora, you don't know anything about me or Nathan." "I know your type," Eleonora said coldly. "Torres women always think they're special, always think they deserve more than the rest of us. Your mother was the same before she threw it all away for that man. My father," Camila interrupted, "was a good man who loved my mother, which is more than can be said for how grandfather treated her." Eleonora laughed, a bitter sound. "Is that what she told you, that she was the victim? Your precious mother was a manipulative, calculating—" "Stop it." Camila's voice rose. "You don't get to talk about her that way. Not ever." A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, and Eleonora's husband stepped out, his face showing concern at the scene before him. "Eleonora, please," he said, taking her arm. "Let's go home." With one last venomous look at Camila, Eleonora allowed herself to be led to the car. "This isn't over," she called as the door closed behind her. Nathan put his arm around Camila's shoulders. Are you all right? She leaned into him, suddenly exhausted. I just want to go back to the hotel. I need to think. In their modest hotel room, Camila sat cross-legged on the bed, Henry's letter in her hands. Nathan had gone to get them dinner, giving her space to read it privately. With trembling fingers, she broke the seal and unfolded the pages. My dear Camila, if you're reading this, I have passed from this world without ever having the chance to meet you face to face. This is my greatest regret. When your mother told me she was pregnant with you, I reacted with anger and pride rather than love and understanding. I forced her to choose between her family and your father. She chose love, as the best of us do. At the time, I could not see the courage in her choice. I saw only defiance. For years, I told myself I was right to cut her off. Even after she died, I hardened my heart against the possibility of knowing you. It wasn't until my own diagnosis that I began to see clearly the wreckage my stubbornness had caused. I have spent the last months of my life learning about you, Camila. I hired a private investigator not to intrude on your privacy, but to know the granddaughter I had shamefully ignored. What I learned humbled me. Your resilience in the face of hardship, your determination, your kindness even to those who showed you none. These qualities speak to a strength of character that I can only assume came from your mother. Certainly, not from my side of the family. When Eleonora told me she had found you, I was overjoyed. Then I learned of her deception, that she had tried to manipulate you with promises of inheritance, that she had painted me as seeking redemption primarily to secure her own financial future. The truth is more selfish. I do seek redemption, but I know it cannot be bought. The money and property I leave to you are poor substitutes for the love and support I should have given. They are not meant as compensation, but as an acknowledgement that you are, and always have been, a true Taurus, more so than anyone else in this family. The condition that you spend a week at the Newport house may seem strange. Let me explain. It was there that your mother was happiest as a child. It was there she told me about your father. It was there I made the worst mistake of my life by turning her away. I hope that by spending time in that place, you might feel some connection to her, and perhaps find it in your heart to forgive an old man his terrible pride. In the master bedroom closet, you will find a chest containing your mother's diaries and photographs. They belong to you now. Perhaps they will help you know her better than I ever allowed myself to. Lastly, about Eleonora and the others, be careful. They will not take kindly to my decision. Money changes people, reveals their true nature. Watch your back, but don't let their bitterness poison the life you're building. I've seen the farm where you found home. It seems a place of peace. The man who runs it looks at you with the same devotion your father once showed your mother. Don't let anyone, family or otherwise, convince you that such love is worth less than wealth. With deepest regret and most sincere apology, your grandfather, Henry. Taurus. Tears streamed down Camila's face as she finished the letter. So many emotions warred within her anger at the years of rejection. Sadness for what might have been. Confusion about this man who had ignored her existence for 25 years, only to leave her a fortune in death. When Nathan returned with takeout containers, he found her still sitting on the bed, the letter beside her, her eyes red from crying. Camila, he set the food down and sat beside her, concern etched on his face. What is it? What did the letter say? She handed it to him wordlessly, watching as he read. His expression changed from concern to surprise to understanding. He had me investigated, she said when Nathan finished reading. All these months, he knew where I was, who I was with. He knew about the farm, about you. Nathan set the letter down carefully. How do you feel about that? Violated. At first, she admitted, but also ... seen, somehow. He tried to know me, in his way. Too little, too late, but still. And the house in Newport. The trust fund. Will you accept them? Camila picked up the letter again, running her finger over her grandfather's signature. I don't know. Part of me wants to refuse it, all, to prove that I meant what I said to Eleonora, that I don't need their money. But Nathan prompted gently, but another part of me is curious about the house, about my mother's things, and practically speaking ... She looked up at him. That kind of money could do a lot of good, Nathan, for us, for the farm. He took her hands in his. This is your decision, Camila. Whatever you choose, I'm with you. If you want to spend a week at the Newport house, we'll go. If you want to walk away from all of it, we'll do that too. You wouldn't mind if I accepted the inheritance? Nathan smiled softly. Why would I mind? I'm not in love with your bank account, Camila. I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, simple and profound. He hadn't said them before, not directly, though she'd felt them in 100 different ways. You love me? She whispered. More than I ever thought possible, he confessed. I think I started falling for you that first day, when you were so determined to work despite barely being able to stand. Camila moved into his arms, her heart full to bursting. I love you too, Nathan, so much that it scares me sometimes. He held her close, his chin resting on top of her head. No need to be scared, not anymore. Eleonora thinks you'll leave when you realize I have money, she murmured against his chest. Or that I'll leave you, Nathan's laugh rumbled through him. Eleonora doesn't know either of us very well, does she? Camila pulled back to look into his eyes. We could use some of the money to expand the farm. Get that irrigation system you've been wanting. Maybe even hire help for the busy seasons. Slow down, he said, smiling at her enthusiasm. First things first, let's go to Newport. Get through the week your grandfather requested, then we can make plans. She nodded, feeling lighter than she had since the lawyer's call. 1 week in Newport. With you, I think I can handle that. The Newport house turned out to be a grand Victorian mansion overlooking the Atlantic, its weathered shingles and white trim speaking of old money and timeless elegance. Camila stood at the iron gates, keys in hand, staring up at what was now, improbably, hers. It's bigger than I expected, she said weakly. Nathan whistled low. Your grandfather had good taste. The interior was like stepping back in time, and furniture, oriental rugs, oil paintings of stern-looking ancestors. A caretaker had prepared the house for their arrival, leaving fresh flowers and a fully stocked kitchen. I feel like I'm in a museum, Camila whispered as they walked through the high-ceilinged rooms. Like I shouldn't touch anything. It's yours, Nathan reminded her. You can touch whatever you want. They explored the house together. From the sunny breakfast room to the formal dining hall that could seat 20. From the library filled with leather-bound books to the music room with its grand piano, each room seemed to hold a piece of history of a family Camila had never known. Finally, they reached the master bedroom on the second floor. It was a beautiful space with windows overlooking the ocean, but Camila's eyes went immediately to the large walk-in closet. The chest, she said, remembering her grandfather's letter. It should be in there. The chest was old, made of cedar, its brass fittings tarnished with age. Together they carried it out to the bedroom and set it on the floor. Camila knelt before it, her heart pounding. Do you want me to leave you alone for this? Nathan asked. She shook her head. No, stay please. Inside the chest were exactly what Henry had promised her mother's diaries, dozens of them, dating back to her childhood. Photo albums filled with images of a young woman with Camila's eyes and smile, letters tied with faded ribbons, a jewelry box containing simple but beautiful pieces. Camila lifted out a diary at random, from the year before her birth. Her mother's handwriting filled the page's elegant flowing script that seemed to capture her personality somehow. She was real, Camila said softly, tracing the words with her fingertip. I mean, I know that sounds stupid. Of course she was real, but I was so young when she died, and I have so few memories. It doesn't sound stupid at all, Nathan said, sitting beside her on the floor. Now you have her words, her thoughts. It's a gift. From the last person I'd have expected, Camila agreed. She closed the diary, not ready yet to dive deeply into her mother's private thoughts. There's so much here. It will take time to go through it all. We have a week, Nathan reminded her. She smiled at him gratefully. A week to discover my past, and then back to our future at Bridal Creek. They spent the days exploring the house and grounds, walking on the private beach, and venturing into town occasionally for meals. Each evening, Camila would read a little from her mother's diaries, piecing together the woman who had given her life. She learned that Elena Torres had been spirited and artistic, often at odds with her traditional father. She read about her mother's first meeting with her father, a young musician playing at a local cafe, and their whirlwind romance. She discovered the pain her mother had felt at being disowned, but also the joy she'd found in creating a life based on love rather than obligation. She never regretted it, Camila told Nathan one night as they sat by the fireplace. Choosing my father, leaving all this behind. Not once in any of her diaries does she say she made the wrong choice. She sounds like her daughter, Nathan observed with a smile. Strong, sure of her heart. On their 5th day at the house, as they were having breakfast on the terrace, a sleek car pulled up to the gates. Camila recognized it immediately. Eleonora, she said, setting down her coffee cup. What is she doing here? Nathan stood. Want me to tell her to leave? The will was specific about no family members during your week here. No, I'll handle it. Camila rose, squaring her shoulders. It's time we had a real conversation anyway. At the gates, Eleonora stood impatiently, designer sunglasses hiding her eyes, an expensive handbag on her arm. You're not supposed to be here, Camila said without preamble. Is that any way to greet your only living aunt? Eleonora's tone was honey over steel. Won't you at least invite me in for coffee? The terms of the will were clear, although Eleonora waved a dismissive hand. Surely you're not going to be so petty. We're family, Camila, are we? You've never treated me like family before. Eleonora sighed dramatically. Perhaps I deserved that. I won't pretend I've been the perfect aunt, but I'm here to make amends. To start fresh, Camila crossed her arms. What do you really want? Aunt Eleonora, the older woman's facade cracked slightly. Fine, let's be direct. I want to discuss a business arrangement that could benefit us both. I'm listening. This house, Eleonora gestured toward the mansion, has been in our family for generations. It means a great deal to me sentimentally, you understand. The townhouse Henry left me is adequate, but this place holds so many memories. And Camila prompted, and I'm prepared to make you a very generous offer to buy it from you. Well above market value. Camila almost laughed. You want to buy the house? It makes sense, doesn't it? You have your rustic life with your farmer. What would you possibly do with a place like this? The property taxes alone are astronomical. I'll manage, Camilla said dryly. Eleonora's smile tightened. Be reasonable, Camilla. You know nothing about maintaining a property of this caliber. The Historical Society regulations alone would give you migraines. I, on the other hand, have the experience, the connections, the lifestyle to do this house justice. From behind Camilla, Nathan's voice came calm and steady. I think what Camilla means is that she's not ready to make any decisions about the property yet. Eleonora's gaze shifted to him, cold assessment in her eyes. Mr. Reed, isn't it? How protective of you. But this is a family matter. Nathan is family, Camilla said firmly. The family I've chosen. Eleonora's laugh was brittle. How sweet and temporary, I'm sure. She reached into her handbag and withdrew a business card. When you come to your senses, call my attorney. My offer won't be on the table indefinitely. Camilla took the card automatically. I'll keep that in mind. As Eleonora turned to leave, she paused. Oh, and Camilla, do be careful about those diaries. So much unfortunate family history in them, not the sort of thing one wants becoming public. With that parting shot, she slid into her car and drove away. What was that supposed to mean? Nathan asked as they walked back to the house. I don't know, Camilla admitted. A threat, a warning with Eleonora. It's hard to tell. That night Camilla couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Eleonora's cryptic comment about the diaries, what was in them that her aunt was so concerned about. She slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Nathan, and went to the chest of diaries. Instead of picking one at random as she had been doing, she began searching methodically, looking for entries around the time her mother would have announced her pregnancy, in a diary dated 26 years ago. She found what she was looking for. Father was so angry when I told him about the baby. I've never seen him like that. But it was Eleonora who truly shocked me. Get rid of it, she said, as if my child were nothing more than an inconvenience. When I refused, she told Father about David's past, twisted it to make him sound like a criminal. She's always been jealous of my happiness, but I never thought she would stoop so low. Later, I overheard them arguing. Eleonora wants Father to change his will, to leave everything to her now that I've disgraced the family. He refused, said the Newport house will always be mine, no matter what. Blood runs deeper than disappointment, he told her. I'm leaving tomorrow. David and I will make our own way. We don't need Father's money or Eleonora's approval. Our baby will grow up surrounded by love, not judgment and manipulation. That's worth more than any inheritance. Camilla's hands trembled as she turned the page. But the next entry was written weeks later, after her mother had already left the family home. She returned to bed, her mind racing. So Eleonora had always wanted the Newport house, had always resented Alina, and by extension, Camilla herself. It wasn't just about the money, it was about winning a decades-old rivalry with her sister. The next morning, Camilla shared her discovery with Nathan. That explains a lot, he said as they walked along the private beach. Why Eleonora seems to hate you on sight, why she's so desperate to get the house, and why grandfather left it specifically to me, Camilla added. He was keeping his promise to my mother, in his way. Nathan picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the water. So what are you going to do? About the house, the money, all of it. Camilla looked out at the horizon, where sky met ocean in a perfect blue line. I'm going to honor both of them, my mother and my grandfather. I'll keep the house, at least for now, not to live in, but to preserve what it meant to them, and the trust fund. She turned to face him, taking his hands in hers. I was thinking, what if we used some of it to set up a foundation? Something to help people who are where I was a few months ago, people who just need a chance, a helping hand. Nathan's face lit up with pride. Camila Torres, you are remarkable. We could call it the Alina Torres Foundation, she continued, warming to the idea. Help single parents, people who've lost everything, people who just need someone to believe in them, like I believed in you, he asked softly. Like we believed in each other, she corrected, standing on tiptoe to kiss him as they walked back. Toward the house, Camilla felt a sense of peace settling over her. The past couldn't be changed, but the future, their future, was full of possibilities. 2 more days, Nathan said, glancing at the grand house. Then back to real life. Camilla squeezed his hand. This isn't real life, she agreed. But what we have at Bridal Creek, that's the most real thing I've ever known. Spring had returned to Bridal Creek Farm, bringing with it new life and new beginnings. The fields were a vibrant green, dotted with wildflowers. In the barn, a new foal wobbled on spindly legs beside its mother. And in the farmhouse kitchen, Camila Torres sat across from Martin Chambers, signing the final documents to establish the Elena Torres Foundation. That's the last one, Martin said, gathering the papers into a neat stack. Congratulations, Camilla. Your mother would be very proud. Camilla smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Thank you for making this happen so quickly. It's been my pleasure. The attorney glanced out the window at the farm spread before them. I must say, this isn't what I expected when Henry left you that fortune. Most young people in your position would be traveling the world or buying luxury apartments. I'm not most people, Camilla said simply. Indeed not. Martin stood, extending his hand. The first grants can go out next month, as we discussed. The board members have all accepted their positions. You've done something remarkable here. After seeing the lawyer off, Camila walked to the edge of the property where Nathan was repairing a section of fence. He looked up as she approached, pushing his hat back and wiping sweat from his brow. All done? He asked. All done, she confirmed. The Elena Torres Foundation is officially real. Nathan set down his tools and pulled her into an embrace. Congratulations. You've worked so hard on this. It had been 3 months since their week at the Newport house. 3 months of lawyers and financial advisors, of planning and dreaming. The foundation would provide housing assistance and job training for people struggling to get back on their feet. People like Camila had been before she found Bridal Creek. We both have, she said, leaning into his solid warmth. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Sure you could have, he said, kissing the top of her head. But I'm glad you didn't have to. Their comfortable moment was interrupted by the sound of a car coming up the drive. They turned to see a sleek black SUV approaching, kicking up dust on the dirt road. Are you expecting someone? Nathan asked. Camila shook her head. No, are you? The vehicle came to a stop and a middle-aged man in an expensive suit stepped out. Camila didn't recognize him at first, then realized it was Walter Torres, her Uncle Eleanor's husband. Camila, he called, walking toward them. I hope I'm not intruding. Uncle Walter, she replied, surprised she hadn't seen him since the will reading. This is unexpected. I apologize for dropping in unannounced. He extended his hand to Nathan. Walter Torres. We weren't properly introduced in Boston. Nathan Reed. They shook hands. Nathan's expression guarded but polite. What brings you here? Camila asked, not bothering to hide her confusion. She'd had no contact with her aunt's family since turning down Eleanor's offer to buy the Newport house. Walter looked uncomfortable. Is there somewhere we could talk privately? It's about Eleonora. Concern flickered across Camila's face. Despite herself, whatever her feelings about her aunt, they were still family, of course. Let's go to the house. Inside, Camila prepared coffee while Walter sat at the kitchen table, looking oddly out of place in his designer suit. Nathan excused himself to return to his fence repair, sensing this was a family matter. What's happened? Camila asked, setting a mug in front of her uncle. Is Aunt Eleonora all right? Walter sighed heavily. Physically, yes. In every other way, I'm not so sure. She's become obsessed, Camila, with the Newport house, with your inheritance, with what she sees as Henry's betrayal. I'm sorry to hear that, Camila said carefully, but I'm not sure what you expect me to do about it. I don't expect anything, Walter clarified. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to warn you. Camila's spine straightened. Warn me. Eleonora is planning something. She's been meeting with lawyers, talking about contesting the will, claiming Henry wasn't of sound mind when he made his final changes. Walter looked genuinely troubled. But it's more than that. She's been digging into your past, looking for anything she can use against you. My past? Camila's laugh held no humor. I have nothing to hide, Uncle Walter. I grew up in foster care. After my mother died, I struggled. I survived. There's no scandal there, I know that. But Eleonora, she's not thinking clearly. She's convinced herself that you somehow manipulated Henry, that you don't deserve what he left you. Camila sipped to her coffee, considering this information. Why are you telling me this? Why warn me against your own wife? Walter looked down at his untouched coffee. Because what she's doing isn't right. Henry made his choices. He wanted to make amends, in his way. Eleonora can't accept that she wasn't his favorite, that in the end, he chose to honor Elena's memory, through you. That's her problem, not mine. It becomes your problem if she drags you into a legal battle, or worse, starts spreading rumors about you. Walter finally met her eyes. Camila, I loved your mother. Elena was kind to me when no one else in the family was. When I married Eleonora, Elena was the only one who truly welcomed me. This was news to Camila. I didn't know that. There's a lot you don't know about your family, about the dynamics between the sisters. Walter hesitated. Your mother was always the free spirit, the one who followed her heart. Eleonora was the practical one, the one who did everything right according to Henry's standards. But no matter how perfect Eleonora was, Henry always favored Elena. It drove Eleonora mad with jealousy. And now that same jealousy is directed at me, Camila concluded. Walter nodded. I've tried talking to her, but she won't listen. She sees the Newport house as rightfully hers. The fact that you're not even living there makes it worse somehow, like you're keeping it from her out of spite. That's not true, Camila protested. I keep it because it was important to my mother, to my grandfather. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, I know that, Walter assured her. But Eleonora doesn't see it that way. She's talking about filing a lawsuit next week. Camila closed her eyes briefly, feeling a headache forming. Thank you for the warning, Uncle Walter, I appreciate it. He stood to leave. There's one more thing, a suggestion, if you'll hear it. Go ahead, talk to her face to face. Not about the house or the money, but about Elena, about the sisters they were before jealousy poisoned everything. Walter's face softened with an old sadness. There was a time when they loved each other, Camila. When they were young, before their own mother died, they were inseparable. Eleonora protected Alina from Henry's strictness. Alina brought joy into Eleonora's carefully ordered world. What happened? Camilla asked quietly. Life choices, Henry's manipulation, pitting them against each other for his approval. Walter shrugged. I don't know if reconciliation is possible now, but I do know that more fighting, more legal battles will only cause more pain for everyone. After Walter left, Camilla walked out to the porch swing, her mind swirling with this new perspective on her family's complicated history. Nathan found her there an hour later, staring out at the fields without really seeing them. Want to talk about it? He asked, sitting beside her. She told him everything Walter had shared, about Eleonora's plans and the long history of jealousy between the sisters. What are you thinking? Nathan asked when she finished. I'm thinking about my mother's diaries, Camilla said slowly. They were entries from when they were young, Eleonora teaching Alina to ride a bike, Alina helping Eleonora sneak out to a dance. They really did love each other once. People change, Nathan observed. Not always for the better, but what if they can change back? Camilla turned to face him. What if there's still a chance to heal this, before it turns into an ugly legal battle? Nathan took her hand. What did you have in mind? The Newport house stood as majestically as ever against the backdrop of the Atlantic, its windows gleaming. In the afternoon sun, Camilla waited nervously on the wide front porch, watching as Eleonora's car pulled through the gates. She'd called her aunt the day after Walter's visit, inviting her to the house. To her surprise, Eleonora had agreed immediately. What's this about, Camilla? Eleonora asked as she approached, her voice clipped but curious. Your message said it was important. It is, Camilla confirmed. Please, come inside. She led her aunt through the house to the sunroom at the back, where tea and sandwiches were laid out. Through the windows, the ocean stretched to the horizon, timeless and unchanging. You've kept the place up well, Eleonora commented, looking around with barely concealed longing. The hydrangeas are blooming right on schedule. I have a good caretaker, Camilla said, pouring tea for them both. Uncle Walter came to see me. Expression hardened. Did he? I wasn't aware. He's worried about you, about this feud between us. There's no feud, Eleonora said stiffly. Just a grave injustice that needs to be corrected. Camilla set down her teacup with a decisive click. Aunt Eleonora, I didn't ask you here to argue about the will. I asked you here to talk about my mother. Something flickered in Eleonora's ice pan perhaps, or surprise Alina. What about her? I've been reading her diaries, Camilla said. All of them, from when she was a little girl until just before she died. And I've learned something interesting. Eleonora's voice was carefully neutral. I learned that you weren't always enemies, that you loved each other once. Camilla leaned forward. She wrote about how you taught her to ride a bike when she was 5, how you let her sleep in your bed during thunderstorms because she was afraid. Eleonora's composure cracked slightly. That was a long time ago. She wrote that you were the brave one, the strong one, that she always wanted to be like her big sister. Stop it, Eleonora whispered, her hands tightening around her teacup. But Camilla pressed on, and later, when things changed between you, she wrote that she missed you, that the worst part of leaving wasn't losing the money or this house, it was losing her sister. A tear slipped down Eleonora's carefully made-up face. You don't know what you're talking about. I think I do. Camilla reached into her pocket and pulled out a faded photograph. I found this in one of her albums. The photo showed 2 young women on this very porch, arms around each other, laughing at the camera. Alina and Eleonora, perhaps 20 and 25. Their resemblance striking despite their different styles. Alina's hair loose and flowing, Eleonora's neatly styled. We were celebrating my engagement to Walter, Eleonora said softly, taking the photo with trembling fingers. Alina had just finished college. We were so happy that day. What happened? Camilla asked gently. Between you two. Eleonora was quiet for a long moment, staring at the photograph. Life happened, choices, father's expectations. She sighed deeply. Alina was always his favorite, though he'd never admit it. No matter how perfect I was, the right schools, the right husband, the right social circles, I could never quite measure up to her natural charm, her spirit. That must have been hard, Camilla said, genuine sympathy in her voice. When she got pregnant with your defied father, chose that musician over her family. Part of me admired her courage, but another part ... double quotes. Eleonora set the photo down carefully. Another part of me was jealous. Even in rebellion, she was magnificent. Even when father disinherited her, he never stopped loving her, while I, who had done everything right, was still second best. And then she died, Camilla said quietly. Eleonora's face crumpled. And then she died, and I never got to tell her I was sorry, that I regretted the things I said, the way I turned on her when she needed me most. She looked up at Camilla, seeing her sister's eyes staring back at her. When Walter told me he'd found you, living on that farm, I saw a chance to make things right, in my way, to bring Elena's daughter back into the fold, give you the life she would have wanted for you, a life of wealth and privilege, Camilla asked, not unkindly. Security, Eleonora corrected. Comfort, the birthright that should have been yours but on your terms, not mine. Yes, Eleonora admitted. I couldn't see past my own idea of what was best, just like father never could. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the distant crash of waves against the shore. I'm not going to sell you this house, Camilla finally said. It means too much to me, to my mother's memory. Eleonora nodded resignation in her gesture. I understand. But, Camilla continued, I would like to offer you something else. A chance to be part of my life. The real life I'm building, not the one you imagined for me. What do you mean? I've established a foundation in my mother's name, the Elena Torres Foundation. It will help people who have fallen on hard times, who just need a chance to get back on their feet. Camilla took a deep breath. I'd like you to be on the board of directors. Eleonora looked genuinely shocked. Why? Because despite everything, your family. Because my mother loved you once, and I think she would want us to find a way forward. And because I believe people can change, can heal, if given the chance. I don't know what to say, Eleonora admitted. Say you'll think about it, Camilla suggested, and that you'll drop any plans to contest the will. We've all lost enough already, Aunt Eleonora. Let's not lose more time to bitterness. When they parted that afternoon, nothing was fully resolved. But a door had been opened, a possibility presented, and for the first time since she'd met her aunt, Camilla felt something like hope for their relationship. Summer returned to Bridal Creek Farm, bringing with it the one-year anniversary of Camilla's arrival. To mark the occasion, Nathan had suggested a small gathering, just a few friends they'd made in town. His sister Marie and, somewhat surprisingly, Uncle Walter and Aunt Eleonora. The last few months had seen a tentative peace between Camilla and her aunt. Eleonora had accepted the position on the foundation's board and, to everyone's surprise, had thrown herself into the work with unexpected passion. She would never be warm or effusive, but she was trying, in her way, to make amends. As the afternoon sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the farmyard, Nathan asked Camilla to take a walk with him. Where are we going? She asked as he led her toward the edge of the property. You'll see, he said, a nervous energy about him that she couldn't quite place. They walked to the spot where they'd first met, where Camilla had collapsed a year ago, desperate and alone. Now wildflowers grew there, dancing in the summer breeze. Do you remember? He asked. How could I forget? She replied softly. It was the day my life changed. Mine too, Nathan said. Though I didn't know it at the time. He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. Camilla, this past year has been the happiest of my life. When you showed up here, I thought I was helping you. But the truth is, you've given me so much more than I could ever give you. Nathan ... bubble quotes Camilla began, but he shook his head. Let me finish, please. He took a deep breath. Before you, the farm was just a place. Important to me, yes, but still just land and buildings. You made it a home. You brought laughter and light and purpose. You showed me what it means to truly share a life with someone. To Camilla's surprise, he lowered himself to one knee, still holding her hands. I know we come from different worlds. I know you have opportunities now that you never had before. But I also know that what we've built together is real and true and worth fighting for. From his pocket he pulled a small box and opened it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring, a diamond nestled between two sapphires, set in white gold. Camilla Torres, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me, here at Bridal Creek, for as long as we both have breath in our bodies? Tears filled Camilla's eyes, happy tears that spilled down her cheeks as she nodded. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes, Nathan. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, and stood to pull her into his arms. Their kiss was sweet and full of promise, sealing a future they would create together. I have something to tell you too, Camilla said when they finally broke apart. I was waiting for the right moment, and I think this is it. What is it? Nathan asked, his eyes still shining with joy from her acceptance. I've decided what to do with the Newport house, she said. I'm turning it into the first Elena Torres Foundation shelter for women and children in need, a place where they can stay while they get back on their feet, find jobs, save money for their own homes. Nathan's face lit up with pride. Camilla, that's perfect. Your mother would be so proud. There's more, she continued. I want us to split our time most of the year here at Bridal Creek, but maybe a month or two at Newport, overseeing the shelter, being hands-on with the foundation work, if that's okay with you. More than okay, he assured her. The farm can spare us for a little while each year. And it's important work you're doing. They walked back to the house hand in hand, the engagement ring catching the last golden rays of sunlight. From the porch, their friends and family watched their approach, something in their expressions revealing that this proposal hadn't been entirely a surprise to anyone but Camilla. Marie was the first to notice the ring, squealing with delight and rushing forward to hug them both. The others followed with congratulations and well wishes. Even Eleonora offered a genuine smile. Alina would have approved, she said quietly to Camilla. He's a good man, like your father was. Coming from Eleonora, this was high praise indeed. Later that evening, as the party wound down and stars appeared in the velvet sky, Camilla and Nathan found themselves once again on the porch swing, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against him. Happy? He asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. More than I ever thought possible, she admitted. A year ago, I had nothing. No hope, no future, no one who cared if I lived or died. And now, she looked up at him, at this man who had seen her at her worst and loved her anyway. Now I have everything that matters, a home, work that makes a difference, family both born and chosen, and you. She touched his face gently. Most of all, you. Nathan captured her hand and kissed her palm. Do you remember what I said to you that first day when you were barely conscious? Camila smiled at the memory. You said I'd eat, I'd rest, and I'd be loved, starting now. I meant every word, he said softly, and I'll keep that promise for the rest of our lives. Above them, the stars continued their ancient dance across the sky. Around them, Bridal Creek Farm settled into the peaceful rhythms of night horses nickering softly in the barn, crickets chirping in the tall grass, a gentle breeze rustling through the trees, and in the hearts of two people who had found each other against all odds, love bloomed as constant and true as the changing seasons, as enduring as the land that had brought them together. I love you, Nathan Reed, Camila whispered, her future bright with promise. And I love you, Camila Torres, he replied, his voice steady and sure. Today, tomorrow, and all the days to come. In the distance, fireflies began to rise from the fields, their tiny lights blinking like earthbound stars, nature's own celebration of a love that had started with kindness, grown through understanding, and would endure through whatever life might bring. For Camila, who had once been lost, and for Nathan, who had been waiting without knowing it, Bridal Creek Farm would always be more than just a place. It would be the beginning of their story, a story of hope found, love given freely, and the beautiful life that can grow when two hearts find their way home to each other. The end.